Welcome back to Gardens Grow Community. This is our 9th furrow, and as you've probably noticed, we're not in the garden, Nick. Where are we now?
We're over at PEGTV's kitchen studio, and you know, we've had a great season, and
we've grown lots of vegetables which we want to put to good and tasty use.
And one of the main vegetables we have at this time of year are tomatillas. And Gale and I invited Peter McMahon, who is a famous Rutland chef, to make some salsa verde and some tomato verde, right? Is that?
Pico de Gallo.
Oh my gosh, okay.
All right, Nick, I'm going to let you take it away with our expert.
Okay.
Happy salsa time, everyone.
Okay, we'll have our beautiful salsa here. Peter has been doing this for a very long time, and I'm going to let Peter show everybody how to make some great salsas, and I'll be sitting in this chair.
So the first thing I'm going to make is the Pico de Gallo. Pico de Gallo, which also has other names in Mexico, salsa cruda, salsa mexicana, or salsa fresca. But basically, you just use fresh tomatoes, a white onion, fresh jalapenos, and salt and cilantro. So it's just chopping. It's all chopped by hand. And you got to have a good sharp knife, for one thing. So the most important thing about this recipe is the ratio of tomatoes to onions. You don't want to have too many onions. So you're just going to dice the tomatoes.
Looks like you have about a 4-to-1 ratio at the moment.
That's about right. So none of this goes into a Cuisinart or a food processor, because it wouldn't look right. Even the onion wouldn't look right, because you want it to be evenly diced. So in Mexico, this is one of the table sauces that they would have on the table in a Mexican restaurant. And it goes with everything: tacos, burritos, chips. You see, I have a very sharp knife, so I don't have to worry about the tomatoes. Because tomatoes, if you don't have a sharp knife, they'll get mushy.
Well, Peter, you're pretty good at cubing tomatoes.
I should be. I'm in the Guinness Book of World Records for most salsa made in a lifetime.
I like that.
Because I had a job in New York City at one point where I worked in a specialty food store, Latin American specialty food store, and I made salsa every day of the week, quite a bit of it. And I also made guacamole every day of the week.
Still do that. I notice at the farmer's market, I see your guacamole and your products.
Yep, the guacamole is the best, is a good seller. So the tomatoes are done. And now I'm going to do the onion. See, if you put this in a Cuisinart, it would get too finely chopped.
Do you ever get any onions that make you cry?
Yeah, they could, but I'm pretty used to it.
Oh.
Some people think that you put garlic in the Pico de Gallo, but in Mexico they wouldn't put garlic. And now I just have to do, maybe I'll do the jalapeno. It depends on how hot it is. I'm just going to use 2 with the seeds. Some people like to take out the seeds, but then you remove all the heat because the heat is in the seeds. You want this salsa to look homemade. You don't want it to be too, fancy. And then I'm going to rough chop some cilantro. And I'm going to add my salt. I use kosher salt, which is a very good all-purpose salt. I don't want to put too much salt because then people will complain that it's bad for them.
I like to use the large grain salt myself.
So I'm going to test it for salt. I don't think I've added enough salt. I think I should add a little bit more, but I'm not quite sure. It's spicy. Just, how many jalapenos did I put? 2 or 3?
I think 3.
So they are spicy. At least I know that now.
So beware.
So that's good. That has enough salt. So now we're going to do the salsa verde, which is done with tomatillos, which are not actually tomatoes. They belong to the family of the Cape gooseberry. People think they're little tomatoes. They aren't really. And these have been parboiled. In order to make the salsa verde, they have to be parboiled. And when you parboil them, you have to be very careful because if you overboil them, they'll burst. But you do want them soft enough so that you can use them in your recipes. And I've noticed that around here, around Rutland, people oftentimes grow tomatillos, but they don't seem to know what to do with them after they have them in their garden. So this is a good recipe. Now this actually is a raw sauce. Even though the tomatillos have been parboiled, everything else is raw. The onion, the jalapeno, the garlic, the cilantro, and in this one we're also going to use some Italian parsley, the flat leaf parsley. Italian parsley is an ingredient in Mexican cooking. A lot of people don't realize that. And salt. And I have a high-powered blender here. It's a
Well used.
KitchenAid.
Well used.
Well, very well used. So I'm just going to put the tomatillos in.
And you're making about 1 quart?
It'll
Or
be
a little
about a
more.
quart, yeah. And the garlic goes in whole. And the onion has been, jalapenos, I'm just going to cut them up. Now we know from having made the salsa that they are pretty spicy, but we want this to be spicy. I should point out that to be really authentic Mexican, you wouldn't be using jalapenos, you'd be using serrano peppers, which are smaller. They're the same color green, but they're smaller. But it's hard to find good serranos around Rutland, so I've gotten used to using jalapenos. And it doesn't affect the taste that much, but if you wanted to be strictly, really authentic, you would use serranos. Serrano. So I have to make sure I have room for both the cilantro and the Italian parsley. You want this to be a bright green, so you put a lot of cilantro and not as much parsley. This is called Salsa Verde, and like I said, it's a raw sauce. However, after you make it, you can turn it into a cooked sauce just by sauteing it in oil. And then once it's cooked, you can use it for enchiladas or shrimp, chicken, different things.
Well, that is a gigantic secret, the parboiling of the tomatillas. I wouldn't have guessed that. And there's quite a few tomatillas in there.
Now this I'm going to use quite a bit of salt because this takes more salt. I'm going to put even more cilantro because you want it to be nice and green. Now you'll notice this is a really good high-powered blender, which means that, it isn't as much work to get this.
Do all the seeds get grinded up pretty good?
Yep,
also?
yep, you don't have to worry about that. And those were really nice. Those, by the way, were locally grown tomatillos.
Yeah, and tomatillas have a ton of seeds.
The other thing I should mention about this salsa verde is that it is not a good keeper as a salsa. It loses its flavor very, very fast, which is why you can cook it. And once you cook it, it retains its flavor. But then it becomes a cooked sauce, a different sauce. I'm just going to put a little more salt, but it is spicy also. And you notice it's the brilliant green color.
beautiful.
It is a beautiful color. So if you were in Mexico in a Mexican restaurant, these are two of the sauces that would be on the table. They would be two of the table sauces.
Well, they're really colorful.
Yeah, they're very colorful, aren't they? This one
and,
looks like Christmas colors.
So I'm hoping you try it first, because I noticed your face when you had that hot sauce in your mouth, and you were cogitating on its heat.
Well, you know, I like it to be spicy. And, you know, in Mexico, it would be spicy. But one thing I should point out is not all Mexicans like the same degree of hotness. I mean, it really depends, but, you know, for the most part, you know, it would be spicy. But not all Mexican food is spicy. So we should probably put it into smaller, let's see.
Here's a nice bowl.
Here we go. Yeah, here we go. I'll put that into this
I
one.
think there's another nice bowl over here. Oh. Nope. I think.
And I'll put the salsa verde into this one.
You have a. There you go. You're going to use this one?
Oh, we could use this
Yeah,
one.
that's-
Why don't we, use this one.
So we're really close to the earth eating food like this.
Yeah, it is. And it's healthy, very, very healthy. You'll notice that in neither of these, there's no oil. There's not that much salt. And I'm using a kosher salt, which is better for you. And it's all fresh, you know, fresh produce, very, very fresh produce, so it would be good for you. The thing about Mexican food is that a lot of people, when they think of Mexican food, they just think of cheese. And there's a lot of, you know, recipes where you don't even have to use cheese. You know, if you want to stay away from, you know, that.
Peter, I thank you so much for coming and sharing your expertise. I'm sure there are many things about making salsa that we didn't know, but now the secret is out. And now the moment we've been waiting for, Nick.
Yep.
Shall we dip into it?
I think we ought to try the salsa. Here's
Thank
a
you.
chip for you and a chip for me. And how about a hot one?
Okay, the hot one. Just the right amount of heat. Ice water!
It's getting there.
Fire department!
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Peter.
Okay, and this is the end of our series, 9 Furrows of Gardens Grow Community. See all the community nice people we've met, and I think we should.
We've had an opportunity to meet many people at in the show Gardens. Gardens Grow Community.
Okay, well, we have some salsa thumbs today.
Okay, salsa
We'll close
thumbs. How
out
did
with
that
our
go?
Ole thumbs!
Olé thumbs. Olé thumbs.
Bye-bye! Adios!
Bye-bye. Thank you.